welcome back to the Quarter Century Soldier, episode 24, 2022. So 2022, again, is a moving year. Like I said, 2021, I'm finishing my school for the Defense Attache service. I got Honduras as my next duty station. I am absolutely excited. Why? Because I get to travel on the government's dime. They're paying me to travel over there, which is awesome. Which is awesome. Like I said, for the Defense Attache service, it is a job where you work at the embassy in other countries. And so this is actually a full-time job where you can, if I had gotten into the program earlier, I would have just went from overseas assignment to overseas assignment. So originally, like I was in Honduras, so I could have went to, let's say Paris after that. I could have went to Ireland after that, after like 2 to 3 years, or probably 3 to 4 years. And then I could have went to, Rome after that. So that job, this job, the one that I'm, currently in 2022, because we're in our time machine. So we're in 2022. This is the job I've been looking for. This is the job I've been trying for since 2015. Okay. When I first told them, like, hey, this is what I want to do, and they told me to put together that bullshit ass binder, just to have, just to have them all up in your business, because they have all your clearance information from your last 10 years. And, just information you don't want everybody to see, health stuff. And it's just not something that's to be passed around. There's a lot of information. So, of course, I made the cut. Your boy, my background is clean. I don't get in any trouble. I'm a choir boy. I don't get in any trouble, right? The biggest thing on me is an attitude. But at this point, like I said, I was going to retire in 2020 had I not got accepted. So this right now, me going to Honduras is my only reason for still being in the Army in 2022. I would have been out long time ago. I would have got out when, my streaming was at an all-time high in 2021, and I would have rode that momentum. So in the beginning of 2022, I am still in DC because I don't get to Honduras until March. What it is I'm waiting on my orders to send me over there. You have to have some sort of military orders that allows you to move, that allows you to get paid, to move, and to move like your vehicle, and to move your household stuff. Going overseas is a little bit different, and this setup was a little bit different because I had a house full of stuff. Like I said, I had a 3-level townhome, washer and dryer, a king bed, dresser, mirror. I didn't have another bedroom set, but I had like a living room set, dining room set. And so the thing about when you join the Defense Attache service, the DAS, to work in the DAO, which we call the Defense Attache office, you can't take most of your stuff. You're going to take your kitchen appliances, because our homes that we move into are fully furnished. Right. So what happens is once they find out that you're coming to the embassy, they go house hunting in the area to try to find a place for you to stay. It has to have a certain level of security. It has to be outfitted a certain way. So what happens is, you have people, they look for the nicer neighborhoods. They don't necessarily look for the bigger homes. They look for those who are renting out their homes. And usually, people who rent out their homes are renting out single family homes or condos. So that's why it ends up looking like, all the Americans always get the bigger homes. That's not true. It's just most of the people that are renting homes to the embassy either live in the United States or they live somewhere else. So they're not living in their house, right? So they, I'm not gonna say they're well-to-do, but obviously if they're renting a house, they're living somewhere else. So they're going to look for places close to the embassy that's not 40, 50 minutes away. They're trying to keep you within 15 minutes, within a certain mileage of the embassy, just for safety reasons, just in case. And what they want is they want to build up, semi neighborhoods. Where I was, it was not 100% Americans, but it was a lot of us. So what happens is in your neighborhood, you have safe houses just in case anything happens. You have, safety officers just in case anything happens. You can meet up at that person's house. And that's how it works, right? You have a person that's designated to be in charge of the safety, if they have some sort of lockdown, some sort of war breaks out, some sort of problem, maybe your houses catch on fire or something like that. You have a place to kind of go until help arrives if you can't stay home. So once they figure out you're coming, they're going to get you a place to stay. And so that's why I saw my my townhouse in 2021 when I went to visit, but it wasn't ready yet. They were still cleaning it and painting it. So I can't take all of my stuff. The only thing that I took that was mine were, of course, my computers, my kitchen stuff, and my bed. I did take my bed because, I was the person who sponsored me. Basically, a sponsor is the person who's there already, who's helping you transition over there. So if I had kids, this person would have helped me enroll my kids into school, tell me which school was the best one to enroll my children in, help my spouse get a job, anything like that. Just let us know some of the nuances of everyday life where you're going to be going. So he told me, like, hey, you can bring your bed. They'll just take your bed and put it back in the warehouse. They won't take everything and put it back in the warehouse. So there's no need to bring all of your stuff, right? There's no need to bring a living room set. There's no need to bring a dining room set. Like all of that, your house comes fully furnished. You just have to bring like the electronics, your TVs, your computers, if you have one. You can bring a bed because that's something small that they can take. And now that I've gone and come back, it was good that I didn't take my stuff because there was really no need to take all of my stuff there. So I'm glad that, our home, the home came furnished, and it was Ashley furniture. It wasn't the greatest furniture ever, but there were a lot of people who lived in other homes where their furniture was a little older. Mine was was more modern because my place had marble floors. It had hardwood floors, like in the bathroom, plank flooring. So it was really nice. Like I had no complaints about it. The only complaint I had about it was that it was at the entrance. So it was in a gated community. And when you at the entrance, like you had to show, there was a guard shack. I want to phrase this. There was a guard shack. And so either you live there and you had a badge to get in, or you had to stop at the guard shack to give like your ID saying who you were going to see type stuff. And like right after the guard shack was my place. And so I didn't like that because I'm right at the entrance. And it was just a hassle sometimes getting in and out because there was so much traffic going in and out. But it was really safe. It was really, it was a really good area. Like when I told everybody, when people asked locals and people that worked at the embassy, like where I lived, it was, a lot of people didn't know what the name was, but the people that knew was like, oh, that's a really good area. That's great. I was like, I guess, I guess. So it was a townhouse. It was a 2-level. The good thing about there was all of their rooms come with a bathroom. So in the US, that's kind of like, oh, this is a big deal. This is an ensuite, or this is a master bedroom. So there, I had 3 bedrooms and 3.5 baths. So I had a half bathroom downstairs, and all of my bedrooms had a full bathroom. And I don't know. I think maybe now that I'm looking back on it, I think maybe that's because people rent rooms. So it's really common for people to rent a room in a home and kind of live out of that room. And so you have your own bathroom, which was really cool. Like to have a 3-bedroom, 3.5 bath. To get something like that in the United States, it's just like, what? Like, what? What? Like upstairs was all the bedrooms. And then there was a TV room, like a little TV room area upstairs. Downstairs, it was like an open concept, living room, dining room, kitchen. And then there was a washer and dryer, laundry room. And then I had a maid's quarters where I used it for storage. But, you know, if you had a maid that stayed at the house with you, you know, that's where they would stay. And it had a bathroom in there too. So it was nice. I had no complaints. It had a garage, a little grassy area. Like usually townhomes come with grassy areas in the front. So it was like a little grassy area because they have rolling blackouts or just like random blackouts. And I never got a notification about a blackout happening. So we got generators. And that's why I couldn't continue streaming when I was over there, is because the power would go out. And yes, we had generators, and the generator would kick on. And the generator would generally last about, if it had to last that long, about 3 to 4 days. It usually didn't have to last that long. And if we were using it that long, they would come through and fill it up with gas. You know, some people's generators ran out of gas. Mine never did. But when the power goes out, it's probably like a 5 to 10 second delay before the generator kicks on. So when I was streaming, before I knew all of this, I was streaming and my shit just powered down. Just, ew. And yeah. I just didn't continue streaming. I started recording videos because it was just easier. So that, and then I had to take my vehicle over there. So I had to buy a new vehicle. I had an old Chevy. It was 2007. And they don't let you take anything 10 years old. It's older than 10 years, you can't take it. So this is 2022. I had to buy a new car in order to go. So that's why I ended up getting a Honda. I was going to get a Civic. But when I went to visit in 2021, it's pothole central. Bro, the potholes in Honduras are absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And driving a car over there, there are tire shops all over the place, right? They're all over the place because people tear tires up, rims, axles, just because of the potholes. And I'm talking about, they're not like little small ones. They're like gaping to where sometimes if you hit them, you will bend a rim, you will mess up your axle. So there's like tire dudes all over the place, tire shops all over the place. So I ended up getting a Honda CRV in order to take over there. You know, it was good. It was cool. Little size SUV to whip, because, you know, their streets are really tiny in some of those neighborhoods. Then I wanted all-wheel drive because Tegucigalpa, you know, Honduras itself is mountainous. So it's a lot of hills, a lot of climbing, it's a lot of going down. And sometimes you don't recognize it. So I wanted all-wheel drive just to be safe. So I got a CRV, and that was perfect because that's probably one of the most popular cars over there is the Honda CRV, just because of the size, of the capacity, and, you know, its ability to like whip in and out of small spaces, but also be, you know, really economic. And, you know, Honda's not hard to fix. So yeah, you know, that was it. I was gearing up in March, getting my diplomatic passport and all that stuff ready to go, getting my orders ready to go. And then I had to ship my stuff to Honduras. And March 10th, the day after Biggie died, I headed that way for a 2 to 3 year tour. Originally, my ETS date was, what was my original ETS? Oh, it was February. It's February 2024. So it was last year, right? So when I got there in 22, I basically had a year and a half 2 years, and then I was retiring. So my plan when I arrived there was to, retire in February 24, February 2024. And it was a leap year too. So my retirement date would have been February 29th, which is dope. Right? I don't know. I just like little stuff like that. I don't know. I know it's not important to most people, but for me, I just like little nuances like that. Hold on, let me get a sip. I don't know why it always seems like I got a hiccup every time I start broadcasting. So yeah, so I get over there. I've already met everyone who's there because I was there in September, and this is March timeframe. So when I arrive, everybody's busy, so they send a driver to pick me up. Right? Usually, when you have a new person coming in and they're coming from overseas, they're going overseas. Usually, the right thing to do would be to greet them. Like, I know that I arrived in September. Like, that was my very first time. So technically in March, I'm kind of returning. But yeah, it was, nobody came to greet me and stuff like that. It was kind of like, okay. I didn't have internet for that first day that I was there because, we're supposed to set up internet for the incoming people. But, the shop was in disarray because, shit was happening before I got there that I had no part in. But you know how people, they start to lose that sense of taking care of the next person. And that's something that I'm always big on doing. The big point about being overseas, especially in the military, and this is one of the problems I had, with Honduras, is we're Americans overseas. So we're supposed to be looking out for each other while we're overseas. The same way, different nationalities, when they come to the States, they look out for each other. It's not saying that we're supposed to group up against the locals, but hey, we're all adapting to a different way of life overseas. Some of us have done this before. Like I said, some of us have gone from duty station to duty station overseas. Some of us have been in Honduras before. Some of us haven't. Some of us have family, some of us don't. So it's still supposed to be like a real sense of community, but there wasn't a good sense of community there in Honduras. That's one of the issues that I had with the embassy, is that the United States Embassy is there for Americans that are overseas. And people get it messed up thinking that the United States Embassy is there for the Hondurans, is there for the locals. No. Like, you can apply for visas to go to the United States at the embassy. But the United States Embassy in any country exists because there are Americans there, and they're there to help the Americans. If an American gets in trouble, if an American has questions about, travel restrictions and just general questions about the country, safety, that's what the embassy is for. There is no American embassy in the United States because we don't fucking need one. Like, that's the point, right? That's like saying the Honduran embassy here in the United States is for us. No, it's not for us. It's for Hondurans that live in the United States. And so that was something that was really backwards in Honduras, was, hey, this embassy is for the Americans. But the Hondurans that worked there really acted like if they didn't exist, this embassy wouldn't exist. It's like, no, it's the other way around. So what happens is, once they work at the embassy for so many years and, they stay out of trouble, they keep a good, working evaluation, stuff like that, I think their application to get a visa to come to the United States is easier. So that's why they kind of protect each other, and they don't want, we're there temporarily. Like I just said, I'm there 2 years, 3 years. The Americans swap in and out of there every 3 to 4 years. And, the Hondurans are the, what's the word I'm looking for? They are the workers that's going to be there day in and day out, 20, 30 years. Understood. But understand why this building is still standing. It's because we cycle out of here, in and out of here. If we don't do that, this place fucking closes the fuck down. If they send all the Americans home, the embassy closes. There's this thing about, Hondurans are really, really nice people. Really, the culture is really nice. It's historic. It's colorful. It's bright, and they are really intrigued by Americans because once you leave the city, you don't see a lot of Hondurans that have experience with Americans. So they look at us like we are growing two heads, or, they'll hear us speaking Spanish in our way with our American accents, and they'll chuckle and laugh because it's not something that they see every day. So they're really nice. But it's just like any city. It's like when you live in the city, they get accustomed to Americans. They may know more English than they would out in the country areas that don't run into Americans all the time, or they don't have that much money. So what happens is the Hondurans that work at the embassy are supposed to know a level of English, right? This is American soil. The American embassy is American soil. So it's America. Again, I'm living in Honduras, right? But if I'm working at the embassy, it's supposed to be English spoken here because this is American soil. I can speak Spanish because I'm living in your country. So if I'm in your supermarket, if I'm in the mall, okay, I speak Spanish. I don't argue that. But when we're at the American embassy, the embassy of the United States, you're supposed to have taken a test in order to even work here. So your level of English is supposed to be somewhere. You're supposed to know it. But because that's one of the better jobs in the city, what you got nepotism. You got mom hooking up son, auntie, daughter hooking up dad, uncle. So you have a lot of family ties there, husband and wife working in different areas. And, for the most part, you don't know that until we have things like Halloween, till we have our American holidays and we celebrate them at the embassy. We have Christmas and stuff like that. Then that's when you see, oh, so-and-so is married to so-and-so. They got kids, or this is his son, his niece type shit. What does that do? It means if me and you have beef because I don't rock with you for whatever reason, you may be slowing the work that you're doing, or you may not help me the way that I want to be helped. Now I'm beefing with somebody in another area because that's your relative. There's a lot of that happens. People they like to whisper and talk in the back of hallways because they're family members. And again, they have that us against them mentality. It's like, why? Why? You speak English. So do I. Okay, I don't care. You have a level of arrogance and a level of confidence about you that you don't need to have. You work at the embassy, at the United States Embassy, that's here for me as an American, right? And it affords you ability to take care of your family. You got to learn English when you were growing up because your parents had extra money, whatever it is. I don't care whether you're watching movies, whatever, but you know English. So to your family members, when you go home at night, you may be the king or the queen. You may be somebody who's elevated because you know English. But to me, that ain't shit. I know English too. So what? So the level of arrogance that you have when you go to these different places, because you make a certain amount of money and the classism is really bad over there, the have and the have-nots, you bring that into the embassy. And it's just like, why are you bringing that to me? This is American culture. So part of the embassy is we're bringing in American culture. They don't do Halloween. They don't do that there. So when we have Halloween at the embassy and we decorate our areas like haunted houses in, whatever, somebody had it set up like Mario Kart one year, and you all are bringing your kids to trick or treat for candy. Y'all don't do that. So part of the embassy is to bring American culture over to wherever it is that we are, whether it's El Salvador, Nicaragua, Panama. It's an exchange of culture, right? We're going to learn yours because what are they doing? They have excursions. They have, hey, you can go here, get the embassy rate. You can go see this landmark, get the embassy rate. So that's sharing the local culture like with us. We're going to get that because we live there. But part of what the embassy does is bring American culture to whatever country that we're in. That was one of the biggest problems I had, is because, I lived in the city. And so you deal with that city mentality all the time. But then when you leave the city, you understand that, damn, man, this fucking country is really nice. It's really green. It's more green than I ever thought it would be. And the people are really nice. You know what I'm saying? Like they're really friendly. And they're almost intimidated by Americans, because I think most people see Americans on TV and they have a thought about how Americans act, right? So all you have to do as an American, and this is anywhere, this is why I like to travel, is you just have to be low key. You just have to be nice to people. And if you are able to even say one or two words in their language, that helps. So that's why I know enough Spanish, because again, Spanish is common and I'm also willing to learn it. Now, it's just like it's just like the United States, right? We all speak English. We all learn it, but there's English from New York. There's English from Boston. There's English from Georgia. There's English from Alabama. There's English from Texas, Cali, Seattle. So we all speak different dialects of English. We all have different accents, different words that we use. Soda, pop soda, right? Same thing, but depending on where you're from in the United States, those are two different words for the same thing. As much as I think I know Spanish, like it's different when you travel outside of the city, because the city is more westernized. It's not 100%, but it's more. Because again, they have more interaction. You'll hear more English on the radio. You'll hear more English just spoken in general out there. And people speak English, but they don't want to tell you they speak English because they're afraid of how they sound. But when you go outside of the city into these rural areas, these country areas, like they don't speak any English, and their Spanish is like authentic. It's just like, what did you say? Like, what did you say? Because I don't understand anything you're saying. Some people have a lot of patience with that, and some people don't, right? It's just hit or miss. But I enjoyed my time there. And so when I was getting ready to move there, having the embassy pays for everything to do with your house. You don't pay for anything. Now, you couldn't drink the water there, or they advised you not to drink the water there. So we had to get like water brought in those little 5-gallon, like water containers. Embassy paid for that. The embassy pays for your light bill, your rent. They pay for everything. What you have to pay for is food. You have to pay for gas, insurance on your car. What else? Internet, right? So they got like cable companies just like everybody else. You have to pay for your internet. Other than that, like it wasn't anything to pay for. And then the money transfers. People think that, oh, Americans have so much money. Like, yeah, when we go to other countries and we're making money from the United States, yes, we do. But the money that we make if we're living in the US is nothing. It's nothing. Like, trust me and believe, Americans are working 2 jobs. Americans are putting in the hours every day and having to play Jenga with money every month just to make ends meet. Okay, yes. But when we drop down to a third world country, a country that's not as rich, doesn't have as much taxes as ours does, of course our money goes a long way. So it just looks like Americans have money. No, we don't. And I try to tell people that. It's like, no, we don't. You just have to understand that we're getting paid based on the United States. And trust me, what we're making now in the United States is definitely middle class. It's not, it's just, you're probably breaking even. It's a push every month. A lot of the diplomatic mission, and that's basically what our job was to basically, it's a bilateral cultural exchange. You are over there as a representative of the United States, and you have to act accordingly, right? You have to adjust to the culture, or you'll be persona non grata, which is person not welcome, and that means the ambassador has kicked your ass out of country, and she has the power to do that. Any ambassador in any country at any time can tell you bye, and you got to get the fuck up out of Dodge, right? No questions asked. And I've seen it. Like we had a person that had to be out. I'm out. So it was really good. So what was my job over there? Officially, the job of our office, we had a colonel. He was the director of the office. He is the senior defense official. He is the senior military leader for the country. So basically, he works for the ambassador, and anything military in the country dealing with Americans, he's in charge of, right? So he runs all of that. And, we had there's a military base, an air base, Sotocano Air Base, that's in Honduras. It's there for emergency relief, hurricanes, floods. So, they have National Guardsmen and reserve units that are there that come on 6 to 9 month rotation deployments. They have an 06 commander, but he or she is still under like our colonel, our defense official, because he's the person for the entire country. Like I said, the ambassador is at the time Joe Biden's representative in country. Right now it'd be Trump. So she directly talks to like the president type shit. Like for real. The ambassador that I had, so we have something called the Joint Chiefs. So every branch, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, have a general that's in charge of the entire Army, the entire Air Force, the entire Navy. We call that the Joint Chiefs, right? Of those people, there's one that's senior, that's the chairman over all of them. Follow me. So we had the Army Chief of Staff come to visit us. The general who's in charge of everything Army for the entire Army. And she used to work for him before she got appointed as the ambassador. So her job before was like under him working, doing something. When she got appointed as ambassador, she's now over him, the guy that she just was working for, a 4-star general that's in charge of the entire Army. And, he was a distinguished visitor of hers when he came to the country. So that's serious shit. So our boss was working directly for her. And so you have him, then you have a Army representative. You have two. You have an Army representative, an assistant Army representative. You have Air Force. You had Navy. And so these guys are officers. And what happens is they go to visit units. They go to visit military units. And we look to see how we can help their military. That's it. That's all that we did. The problem is there's a lot of red tape when you want to get new equipment and you want to get new training. So it takes time. So what happens is people are always like, oh, you've been everywhere in Honduras. Like, yeah, because everywhere has a military unit there, right? Now, I'm Army, but that doesn't mean I can't visit a Navy unit. Because I went to go visit the Navy like engineers. I went to go visit the Marines. I've been to the Air Force Base and stuff like that. So it's not to where it's just Army on Army. We're supposed to be able to speak to all branches because we're all military. So that's what we did for the most part. That's what they did. And we us enlisted, we're kind of like their second in command, because over there they're enlisted. Man, they're enlisted are on, like, I'm a senior, like I'm an E7, and I'm with a colonel sitting in meetings, having conversation. Over there, their E7s, their E8s are treated like E1s in the United States Army. Like they're on gate. They have E9s, which are in our army are the senior E9s. Like they lead next to generals and stuff like that. Like over there, their E9s are on gate guard with E4s. They are mechanics in the auto shop. So they don't respect enlisted like that. They don't. Everything is officer, officer, officer. So again, that's another thing that we're teaching them is like, hey, you got this guy who's been doing this job for 15, 16 years. Why not lean on his experience? Why you're just putting in someone who is, new because they're an officer, they're a lieutenant, and you want to get them experience. So you're just throwing them into these positions to get them experience when you have someone with experience that could teach them. But y'all are so hung up on rank structure and hierarchy that you're thinking you can't learn shit from someone who's lower ranking than you. And so it was that they're really hierarchy based. If I rank higher than you, you can't tell me anything. And then women in the military. So they just had their first woman commander. She was in the Air Force. The Air Force is always so progressive. They had the Army commanders wasn't really trying to hear that shit. They are not with women in the infantry. They just aren't with it. Again, they're old school, so they're thinking about just the things that we thought about before we had women in the military. Just hygiene in the field, safety, being out in the field for 3 weeks with, a battalion of 400 dudes and you got 10 females, you know what I'm saying? Like safety, stuff like that. So a part of what we're trying to do too is that our ambassador was a woman, right? Our regional commander was a 4-star. She was in Miami. So she would come to visit to show that women can be in leadership positions. It's still a process. They're not going to change overnight, and we can't make them change overnight. All we can do is share our culture. Like, hey, we got 2 examples of women in leadership positions, and like our army isn't going to shit. So don't think that because you put a woman in charge that your army is going to go to shit or that your Air Force is going to go to shit. That's not going to happen. Just promote the right people. So that was the job that was there. But when I was in the office, I was pretty much, the chief of staff for the colonel. He had a secretary that would schedule like his appointments and shit like that. But I'm always keeping him abreast of training, of travel, of budget. Like money was a really big thing. So we were always making sure that we had enough money to travel, because when we went to these places, it was temporary duty. So we had to, get paid to go there. But like I said, all of our we had 7 vehicles. So all of our assets are paid by the Army. Our rent, our electricity, our fuel for our government vehicles, all of that has to be managed, and I was managing that. So I was managing the budget, like computer systems, just stuff like that. Problems that would come up, people just my computer doesn't work, so you have to, all right, let me fucking get your computer working. Oh, so and so hasn't done his training. Okay, let me get the training. Hey, Felix, your fucking rent hasn't been paid this month. Y'all are like 6 months past due. Okay, where's the money for the rent and stuff like that? Okay, well, we got a new person coming in. We got to make sure that her house is good to go. So you got to go inspect her house, make sure that it's good. She has 2 kids. Make sure she's not in a 1-bedroom apartment. They have space like as a family, because the embassy doesn't view the military as equals. because we're military. They look at us as, oh, y'all are just, uniform wearers. Y'all don't do anything. It's like, bro, we're bringing in so much money to this place. The defense attaché office, we brought in so much money to the embassy. It was just ridiculous. Like, if it wasn't for us having vehicles, like, we had to pay for parking just into everybody at the embassy has to pay, like, for their parking spots, for their areas. No one else has vehicles. We do, right? We do that. We have to pay for that. The supplies that we use, like, no one else has an office like we do. Like, we have to pay for that. We're gone so much that we're paying for fuel. We pay for that. Like, our homes, we pay for that. It comes from DC. Like, they are sending us money to pay you guys, and we know that we were paying like $13,000 a quarter for our director's house. It was a huge mansion with a pool in the back. I was a property manager for that. So whenever he left and we got a new one to come in, I had to do the repairs on his house, make sure that they were up to snuff, make sure that he was good to go, because if he came in with his family and he was unhappy, he'd make life terrible for the rest of us. So it was just, I was the chief of staff. I managed the staff and everything. And, I was his right hand. So, we had a lot of conversations on and off the record, just about shit that was happening, shit that needed to happen, because there was a lot of, it's crazy that our office was all dudes, and it was so much like infighting. Like, motherfuckers did not get along for no reason other than they can't communicate. Everybody's fucking wearing their pride on their chest and just not communicating and acting like a acting like a bunch of bitches, to be honest with you. Like, why can't y'all just communicate? Like, how you gonna freeze another dude out and it's not talk to him? Like, what kind of shit is that? Like, what kind of ish is that you not man enough and you don't like a guy enough to where you're not talking to him? What? Like, bro, we're an office of like 9 people. You can't get around that. We have a meeting every Monday. Our jobs like cross over because we have to share information with each other about where we go, who we talk to, just to help improve the military. How are you just not talking to somebody? And then people were beefing and like supposedly peeing in each other's offices and stuff like that. It was crazy. And I walked into all of this. Like, this was happening before I got there. There was like this thing where they thought one of these dudes was going around peeing in everybody's office, and he was cutting up pieces of the carpet and sending it for testing for urine because he smelled urine. It was like, what? Like, what are y'all talking about? What are y'all doing in here? And granted, we don't have any privates. We don't have any junior soldiers. Let me put it that way. Everybody is senior. Everybody has been in 15 years. I was the youngest. I was the most junior person, and I'm at 22 years. What? Like, how y'all? Come on, man. Y'all are grown ass men in here. So it was interesting to say the least. But it was a great setting because I didn't wear the uniform. So I didn't wear my uniform for like 9 months. It was all civilian clothes. A lot of people went to people go to different embassies. And when we're in school, we got the class on wearing suits and etiquette. So I'm thinking, damn, I'm gonna have to wear a suit every day. So I got to get suits. So I got like eight of them. I went to Central America, and Central America is not really, they're not really formal like that. They might pop out formally a couple times a year, but usually it's more casual. Like, they will put on a button-up shirt. Like, to them, that's, but to like put on a suit, we didn't really have to do that. So I had this closet full of, this is how I started wearing the suit thing. I had a closet of 8 suits. So I'm like, damn, I got to wear these. I didn't buy these for no reason. So that is why I started wearing them. And I started wearing them every Wednesday. So Wednesday was my suit day. That's kind of like I look good that day. It's hump day, so it's getting me over the hump of the week, because I get a reason to get up and put on a suit. And then the internet was fucking with it too. So I was like, all right, cool, the man in the suit. So that's how the man in the suit came to be. Because I bought all these suits to go to the embassy thinking I was gonna need them, and I actually didn't. But I was like, fuck it, I gotta wear these suits anyway because I bought them. And then I was like, once I started wearing them, I was like, damn, I actually look pretty good in this motherfucker. Like really, really good. So let me just continue. And wearing a suit isn't uncomfortable for me. So I'm not like, oh man, I gotta wear a suit. Like, why I gotta do that? Like, I'm not like that. I'm like, oh, I gotta wear a suit. All right, cool, I'm gonna kill it. So usually it was just, slacks and a polo shirt, a collared shirt. So that was my jam. That's still my jam now, even though it's like hot as hell here in Texas. But it was no uniforms, obviously, just because you never know. You didn't want to be targeted like that. And the thing about Honduras is dangerous. Yes, it's dangerous just like any other city. So that's the first thing people ask me. Is it dangerous? Safety and danger is a question relative to who you're talking to, right? Some people are from the mean streets and some people aren't. So if you're from the suburbs, places that are dangerous are different to you than someone who grew up in the mean streets. And so I say that when people ask me. I don't think Honduras is dangerous. Is Honduras dangerous at 1 a.m. on a back alley on a Friday with you have gold jewelry around your neck? Yes. Like, I wouldn't wear this in Honduras at no point in time. One, because it's too flashy anyway, and it's calling too much attention to yourself. So I had a Fitbit back then, and somebody, the person who was there before me, was just like, "Oh man, that Fitbit, that's you're gonna be a target." I'm like, bro, it's a Fitbit. It was like one of the small ones. It wasn't like this Apple Watch. It was like one of those really small, skinny ones. He's like, yeah, that's like 3 dinners for somebody. Come to find out, he's one of those I'm from the suburbs people. Now, I'm not from the mean streets or nothing. I'm not. But I know how to act accordingly, right? I know where to be. I'm always going to be watching my surroundings, but I'm not, even if I'm in the United States, I'm not going to go to certain places in Houston, certain places in Dallas, certain places in San Antonio, just in the middle of the night, cruising around. I'm not going to do that. That's just because you don't know. You don't know how people are going to act. LA, like, you don't just go rolling around LA like, yo, what's up? What's going on, everybody? Like, no, you don't do that. So it's just etiquette. So you just have to carry that same etiquette over there. It's with anything, right? Could you get your phone snatched out of your hand walking down the sidewalk? Yes, you could do that, but that could happen anywhere. So to say that it's unsafe because of that, to me, is unfair. I never had anything happen to me while I was there. So I'm cool with that. Does it have to do with my appearance, my size? Maybe, maybe. But I want to say it has more to do with my awareness. Like I said, I'm American because of the way I look, but I didn't wear any earrings. I might have worn them on the weekends, but my earrings are not very big. I wore a watch and that was it. And I wore a regular bracelet. Like it's a bracelet. It's not even shiny. It's actually like leather. So, and that was all I wore. I didn't wear anything. And I had all of my jewelry over there, but I never wore any rings, anything, just because it's unnecessary. But now that I'm back in the States, I got my jewels on, yeah. Because that's our culture here, yeah. So when I got there in March, I hit the ground running. It was just so much to learn. And there's nothing like on the job training. So I was doing the job of 3 people because it was supposed to be me, who's the operations coordinator. Then I'm supposed to have an operations NCO Army, operations NCO Air Force. And then we have like another mechanic guy who just does mechanic shit. But I didn't have the operations NCO Army or the operations NCO Air Force. It was just me, the operations coordinator. So I was doing a job of 3 people. And I think I was doing a great job. Like the crazy part is We had a POC, so we had an operations coordinator back in DC. You know, we would call if we had questions, if we ran into any problems, any issues, and stuff like that. So the dude who worked in DC, who was my like go-to, he was my drill sergeant in 2004 when I went to AIT at Fort Sam Houston to reclass. I didn't know that until he was like, "What's your job?" And I was like, I'm lab right now, but you know, I'm switching, obviously." And he was like, "When'd you go through school?" And I was like, 2004, because I was a reclass. And he was like, "Yeah, you was in Bravo Company?" I was like, "Yeah, 187, of course. That's where the kilos go to school." He was like, "Yeah, I was a drill sergeant there." And when he said that, I remember his face because we knew the same people. So I was like, "Damn, that's crazy how small the world is, and especially that MOS." So that was him. While I was there, I met a major who was also in lab. I'm telling you, man, lab techs are some of the smartest people in the military, hands down. And he went through an 04. He was like 2 classes behind me. I was like, "Damn, man, I'm meeting all types of people over here that used to be in the lab." He was a major. He was a foreign area officer, so he goes from embassy to embassy. Like, that's his job. So that was really cool. So the operations coordinator job is one of those jobs where I was looking for that job in the Army that lets you travel from overseas to overseas. And that's actually the job that I was looking for. But of course, the Army doesn't do a good job of promoting anything. It's called, it's a 351 Zulu, and it's actually a warrant officer. And it's an operations coordinator. And what you do is when you go to the embassy, you're basically the chief of staff for the senior defense official. And you go from embassy to embassy. So you spend your entire career overseas. And I was like, see what I'm saying? Like, if if I had known this existed, I would have applied for this job not yesterday, but the day before yesterday. And so I almost applied like in 2022. I almost applied to say like, "Hey, I want to stay in longer and I want to stay in this job," because I would have stayed overseas. It's different when you travel on the hold on. It's different when you travel on the military's dime. I like travel, and of course, you know, I'm going to make it do what it do traveling, but you know, they paid for everything. So I was really into that job. I really was. And so, like I said, you handled everything. You were the hub for all things. If it comes to, so I was on boards for, there's a board for when new people come in, you select their houses where they're going to stay. And, you go take a tour of their houses. You'd be like, okay, cool. This person says they want a front yard. They got 2 dogs. They need space to garden, XYZ. This house meets their needs, or no, this house doesn't meet their needs. It was just for the embassy. I was the face of the DAO because I was the person that they talked to. I had to make those rounds. And again, even though I didn't like talking to a lot of the people that was there because they were cocky. They were just overly arrogant because they knew English. I didn't like talking to them. But again, I had to compartmentalize because I'm there, I have a job to do, so I got to make it work. I got to do something. So I made it happen. That first year was really busy because, like I said, when I get to a new duty station, I am learning the job. Like, that's my first year. So 2022, that's all I did was get there, learn the job. I didn't even really travel like that just because I'm the only person there. So on the weekends, if someone had a question, if someone had, we did like aircraft clearances. So you had to request, military flights that come in have to request the okay to land. You just can't take a fucking plane into Honduras. You have to make sure you would call our office if you're military, and you would have to you have to send in a flight plan that says, hey, I'm going to be in Honduras on Friday. I have this many members, and we're going to be leaving on Sunday, because we have to account for all all military members in the country. It's supposed to be civilians too. So if you go to a country for travel, for vacation, you're supposed to check into the embassy just to let them know that you're there, just in case anything happens to you. But most people don't do that. But you're supposed to do that. And that's for everybody. But definitely when military goes into another country, they have to check in with the embassy, because we have to account for you being there. I'll tell you why. One of my first weeks there, like I said, the senior defense official, he's a seasoned 06 colonel. Next rank is brigadier general, right? So this guy, special forces, you know what I'm saying? He had a lot of experience. So he was a single dude too. He was really cool. He came in one day. He was like, yo, what the fuck? Like, I gotta get dressed. I gotta get into my uniform, like the dress uniform, and I gotta go see the ambassador. Like, some bullshit happened with motherfuckers that was here like overnight, and they didn't say anything. I was like, word? He was like, yeah. So now I gotta go see. She wants an update from me, because he has the answer for everything military members do, right? I don't care if it's the lowest E4. If they get caught fighting in the club, right, and she gets word of it, she's gonna call him and say, what the fuck? Rim's out in the club and he's fighting? Like, what's going on? Like, we have to, what's happening? Like, why was he down there? XYZ, right? So it was this whole big thing. So anything that happens with military members, he has the answer for. Hopefully, people below him have fed him the information. Not me, people from like the incident. So if a soldier is down and fighting in the club, you know, he has supervisors that should be telling the colonel like what happened. So he has to put on this uniform. He's pissed, right? He's pissed because they're leaving him out to dry. He has to now go answer questions, and no one is telling him anything. No one has called him and said, hey, this happened. So apparently what happened was, we had this special forces group come in on a plane. Something happened. They're supposed to tell like the aircraft controller, the person who does the clearances at the base, that they were on the plane. Somehow the guy left early, or there was like a break or something like that, and there was no accounting for this group of dudes, these special forces dudes that were on their way to Colombia. They weren't even staying in Honduras. They were going to Colombia, right? Because that's the main jump off point for Latin America. Most people either want to go to Mexico or they want to go to Bogota. Okay, so they stayed in Honduras overnight. So they went to a club in Honduras. Of course, they went to an off-limits club in Honduras. And what happens when they get to this off-limits club? Somebody's talking to somebody's girl, and boom, fight breaks out. Fight breaks out. People start missing teeth. People get knocked out. Shots are fired, right? So now this is a news covered thing. Nobody got killed, but shots rang out. They said people was missing teeth. Somebody was knocked out, and shots rang out. So the news jumps on that. So the news is reporting, and of course, propaganda, not intentionally, but how is the news going to report Americans fighting in the club, right? We all know how that shit's going to be spun. So the news is saying Americans come down to the club starting fights and shooting. What? Talk about causing an international incident. Like, that shit is going to send up red flags and flares everywhere because we don't want that. We don't want that on the news. We don't want that look. We don't want any of that. So, and that's going to reach back to DC. That's going to reach back to Miami because, you know, over our office specifically is in DC. Over the region, over all things Latin America for the military is Miami. That's where the 4-star sits for that. So this is a huge deal. So what happens is this group of guys gets off the plane, goes to hang out for the night, boom, get in the fight, get on the plane, leave. No one says a word. No one says anything. So they come in, drop a hand grenade, and walk out, like metaphorically. And so it was a big what to do. And so now, you know, policies have to be changed, questions have to be answered. And so he's like losing his shit because how come nobody reported this? How can someone come into the country and you guys not know who it is? How can all of this shit happen overnight and nobody says anything? Nobody reports anything. How can y'all just let them get on the plane and leave? Right? So eventually, like, politicians and diplomats do what they do, have the conversation, and everything gets sorted out. I never heard anything else that happened. Like, they didn't like pull the guys back and court martial them, anything like that. They were already gone by the time all this happened. But it's just little stuff like that is what we had to deal with, is when things get out of control with military members. Another thing, we had this is all in 2022. We had an Air Force guy. Sotocano is an air base. It's deployments. They're deploying their National Guardsmen Reserve that deploy there for 6 to 9 months. They're only there for humanitarian aid, right? So it's not a war zone. Honduras is not a war zone. So the word deployment can be used in different ways. So they're there because in the fall, Honduras is prone to floods. Honduras is prone to earthquakes. And so if they need help, they have a unit there that can, you know, provide aid. And they get wildfires sometimes too. So we have an Air Force guy, goes off base, is in a club in the middle of the night. I'm telling you, man, people in clubs, it's crazy because I used to frequent them too. I've never been in any trouble like that. I don't know why. I guess I never went in another country. I would never be out till like 1 a.m. in a club in another country. Absolutely not. So he's in the club, and over there they have their taxis are in like little white Corollas. They're all in Corollas, and they have like these little yellow signs on the side of them. That's how you know they're taxis. We can't use public transportation. Us people assigned to the embassy, we cannot use it. Now, Americans that come over there, they say, hey, you shouldn't use it, but we can't control what you do. That's just one of those safety briefing type things. So, because they get extorted by the gangs. And so what happens when Felix is a cab driver and I got to pay one of the gangs some money, I'm going to lock you in my cab and shake you down until you give me your purse, you give me your wallet, you give me your phone, and then I'll let you out. Like, that's how they do it, right? So they say, don't use those things. Not every cab is bad, but we don't know who's bad and who's not. So, and they also say don't get in a cab with other people. So their ride sharing is normal. So it is completely normal for you to stop a cab, like, hey, like you're in New York, hey, stop a cab. And it'd be 2 people in there already because they're going somewhere. They've already paid their fare and he's going to like drop them off, or you may be on the way or something like that. So that's how they ride share. And yeah, I guess they just negotiate the price. Like, hey, I want to go to Buckingham Palace. It's going to be $25. Like, here you go. So it's not like you're on the meter and you're sitting there. So it's nothing for them to get in the cab with other people. And that's what they tell us. Like, don't get into anything with other people. We're not even supposed to be in the cab, but you're not supposed to get into the cab with other people. Because they do have Uber and stuff over there. So what does he do? He goes to the club in the middle of the night, uses the cab, gets in the cab, and there's other people in there, right? And there's other people in there. So he's with his girlfriend. And this is all on camera. He goes to get out of the car, out of the back seat, and somebody gets out of the car and comes over to his side. They have a gun. So they're basically not gonna let him leave until you got to give up something. Again, we can't hear anything, but it's recorded on like a CCTV, maybe it was like a camera from like a store or something like that. So they're trying to, get money, get whatever they want from him, right? So I guess he says no, but he grabs at the gun, right? The gunshots go off, bing, bing. He gets shot like in the shoulder and like in the hand or something like that. Boom. So then he's like, you can see him like holding whatever it is where he got shot and like walking to the back of the car, like, I've been shot. So his girl is like standing there like, oh shit, like what's happening? And the dude with the gun like shoots her in the shoulder and then they just drive the fuck off. It was the craziest thing. And over there, they're not censored like we are. Like they will share that shit, in email, on social media, on people's phones. So it's not a big deal. That's how we saw it, like social media. I don't know why theirs is different than ours, but I see a lot of shit on social media that I'm just like, well, how are y'all able to post that? But yeah, he was getting robbed and he grabbed at the gun. The gunshots went off and shot him. And then they like shot his girl for no reason. She wasn't doing anything. She was just like standing there like scared. Like, this dude has a gun. Shot her indiscriminately, just bang, and then walked off. Nobody died. Everybody was good. But naturally, like he got court-martialed. I was like, damn, y'all gonna do him like that? Like how? like that's messed up. I get it. He went down a list of things you should not do and did those things. But it's like, and then you got to wake up all that, and you got to get Article 15. You got to get court-martialed. Like, damn, dog. Like y'all don't play no games, do you? So that is how like my time in Honduras started in 2022, and it was actually a fantastic job because we are so far removed from military supervision. It is totally unsupervised. Totally. So much so, like I was telling you, the directors, the 06s, the senior defense officials, these guys and gals run wild because they have so much power because no one is regulating them, right? Of course, when the cat's away, the mice will play. So no one's regulating them on a daily basis. There was a lot of times I'm like, hey, sir, you cannot do that. Like, you can't do that. You can't make like one of the locals go and pick up your fucking dry cleaning. You can't have him follow you in a government vehicle videotaping you riding your bike. You can't do that. That's illegal. Like, that's illegal use of funds. Like, two guys before him, like I wasn't there for this, so I'm telling this story like secondhand, third hand maybe. The guy before him, like I said, the director, the official lives in a mansion, right? It's great. It's huge, but it's a residence for parties. So what he's supposed to do, him and his family live on the top floor. And then the bottom floor is like a regular house, kitchen, living room, and out back is like a pool, but it's an entertainment space. So what he's supposed to do is he's supposed to hold meetings. Again, he talks to commanders. He talks to other senior leaders, like the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of Admin, the justice official. So, they have meetings and, they have little get-togethers and parties. That's just part of culture building and relationship building. So it's not like all business, but of course they're going to talk business at the dinners and stuff like that. So this guy was single, and again, these are government vehicles. They're ours. They belong to our office. You always have to have somebody like from our office in those vehicles. You can't go to the store in them. You can't go travel like for fun in them. You're not supposed to do that. You can't do that. Okay. So what happens is he is they have cameras in in there pointed inside and outside. So he has his girlfriend who's a local in the vehicle, right? She's riding around, like they have him on multiple, like filmed multiple times with her in there. And then what got him was, I think he was they were trying to say he was drunk, but like they were cutting in the vehicle. they were they were cutting in the government vehicle. Like, bro was insane. Are you nuts? Like, why are you doing that? So first, like the story that was told to me, you know, people embellish, so I don't know. It really happened. I just don't know if it happened the way people say it did. You know, people always dress stuff up to make it entertaining. Is that, you know, he was like swerving and stuff, so you could tell like, hey, something's wrong. So what happens when you're driving the vehicle, if you go too fast or if you start to like lane change a lot, if you stop abruptly, the camera will cut on. So it'll like say like, hey, we're recording, you know, like officially to send something to somebody. It'll be like a red light. So what happens was, I guess he was swerving and, you know, the light came on to say like recording, like something's going on with the vehicle. Bop, bop, bop. Apparently they have him like on camera with his hand like up her dress. With his hand up her dress in the front seat, because the camera is where the rear view is. So his hand is like in her dress, like playing the guitar, we'll put it that way. Playing the guitar, acoustic guitar. And then it transitions, like, you know, it starts with that, and then they go into full on getting it on in the vehicle. So needless to say, he lost his job. The persona non grata, and he had to leave. Like, he was out of there. Peace. Immediately before, you know, like locals caught wind of that type shit. So yeah, that was my introduction to Honduras, because all this happened in 2022. But in 2022, I'm liking the job. It is busy, but it's great. It's very cool. Living in another country is very eye-opening. I suggest if somebody can do it, to at least try it, because, you know, it had me considering not even coming back to the United States. We'll get more into that, but you know, I think that there are benefits to living overseas, and there are downsides to living overseas. One of the biggest things about the United States is that everything's so high. Everything's so high. So if you're able to get some sort of retirement, Social Security, XYZ, and live overseas, that's why I know there's a lot of expats, you know, Americans living overseas that live in other countries. Thailand is one. I'm not going to anybody's Thailand, but like places like that, Vietnam, your money goes a long way in those places. And Honduras is one of those places where it could go a long way, but there's a lot of downside to living there too. So, but that has been 2022. I'm now in Honduras, working at the embassy, operations coordinator over there, loving the job, loving living overseas, and so happy I actually found this job. And I'm actually upset because this is kind of what I wanted to do when I joined the Army. I didn't want to go from DC to Texas to California. Like, to me, that's not traveling, right? Traveling is when you go out of the United States, when people don't look like you, don't talk like you, look at you like you're weird. Like, that lets me know that you're traveling. There's history, there's things to learn. And so had I found this job earlier, I probably wouldn't be here right now. I probably would still be active duty. I'm gonna be 100% honest with you, but I really liked it. And so going into 2023, is it's a little bit of a transition. It's a lot going on in 2023. So I'll get into that. I'll get into that in the next episode. That'll be what? When we come back. 2023, episode 25. We're getting there. We're close. Definitely tune in for 2023 because that affects why I'm sitting here today. So we'll get into that. Thank you all for watching. Again, make sure you follow all the social medias here. I appreciate your time, and I'll see y'all in the next one.